Alrighty, welcome to From the Lot. We're here in the lot right now, dude.
Is it set up on us actually?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
it's
it
a
is.
360 camera, dude.
Oh shit!
Shit, we here. This is the podcast where we talk about movies right after seeing them.
Yes, sir.
Right here in the lot. You may be able to see the AMC. Who knows?
Unfortunately,
It's 360.
no dumpster this week. We apologize.
No, we just have this beautiful
there you go.
construction site, which is even better.
Actually, mega dumpsters over there.
Yeah, there's some pretty big dumpsters.
Yeah. Welcome back to your drunk uncle's favorite movie podcast.
Yes, exactly. Your drunkles.
Your drunkle's favorite movie podcast.
And we, we're actually up on Spotify and all that stuff now, as well as any other platform. But Rumble is really where you want to see us, because that's where we post the exclusive extra bonus bullshit. So if you want extra bullshit, that's where you get the bullshit. We always forget to say
bullshit.
it, so yeah, fuck it. Actually,
Go give it a watch, give it a listen.
Yeah, we
What movie did we just see?
we just saw a very memorable movie.
The Little Engine That Could.
Yeah,
And he would, and he did.
he would have if he hadn't lost at Waterloo.
Yes.
Also, Napoleon, directed by Ridley Scott. You have some opinions, I hear. We came out.
Some opinions.
Will was like, "Hey, I got some opinions," and I'm curious what those opinions are, because I wonder if they align with mine. For my opinions are mixed.
Okay.
Shall we say?
So I think they might be aligned then. I found myself within the movie going back and forth.
I'm good.
Between like, okay, I like this, and this is kind of losing me a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you want to call it like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 1 step back. So, but just that's the way the movie felt to me ultimately. I really enjoyed the opening of the movie. I thought the opening scene was really fucking cool, seeing Marie Antoinette go to the fucking guillotine.
Just her head just goes.
And the camera work,
Boom.
the angles, that was fucking sick. I loved him taking the castle at
You mean destroying the British Navy?
yeah,
At
the
Velour?
first, yeah.
Yeah.
But where's it at? It was
I think Velour is the name.
okay. So, but I will say, this is the first thing I noticed. The first thing that was kind of like, oof, when we watched the movie. During that scene, I thought it was too fucking dark. And I thought during some of the battle scenes, there was a common theme of it just being too fucking dark. Kind of reminiscent of...
You sound like Roger Ebert.
Kind of like... reminiscent of the Game of Thrones episode. Is it where the Night King and his army finally, comes to battle... is it at the wall maybe or whatever? It's basically like when Arya kills him, right? Like that whole battle, you've been building up to this for years. It's so epic. And I'm sitting there kind of like, wait a minute. What? Like squinting, trying, it's really hard for me to make out mannerisms and
Yeah.
So that was kind of like my first critique. It was like, man, I would like this is really cool. I would like to be able to see more of it personally. And then I think I found myself, I checked, it was around 2:30. I checked my phone, which means probably the movie had been going on for maybe 75, 80 minutes.
Oh, you checked the time?
Checked the time because I was like, I feel like a few things got yada yada'd, as I told you inside.
Yeah.
After the first 20 minutes, and all of a sudden we were here, and it was a lot of focus on his love story with Josephine, whom at that time in the movie, man, I did not think they had good chemistry at all. I don't know if that was supposed to be kind of part of their romancing and their story.
Well, yeah, it wasn't clear what... It was similar to the problem of Killers of the Flower Moon, where it's okay, they have to be together because the story says they have to be together, but you don't see it.
There was no pizzazz there.
In real life, often you can just look at two people and be like, oh, they're together. And
Right.
sometimes you'll even make the mistake of being like, oh, so how long you been together? Like, oh, we're just friends. It's like, oh, shit, I made the faux pas. Maybe one of them wants it. Maybe.
Right. But there's clearly something.
Chemistry here, right? Like,
yeah.
that has to be apparent. And if it's not, I mean, and look, I think it's tough to do chemistry when you have to talk like you're Napoleon. You know?
Yeah.
It's the 1700s. You know, everyone's wearing these stuffy things. It wasn't the same sort of atmosphere romantically, obviously.
Right.
A lot of this is like being done. It's almost like, if you recall, like he only really pursued her, I think, because he respected her son, who you just never see again, by the way.
Very true. Yeah.
Her son comes in after he thought she was pretty, and then you just never see the son after those first couple scenes, which is, I mean, and I'm sure that a lot of this is in the 4-hour supercut,
which I did not know they were making, but I was curious while watching the movie. I was like, there has to be a much longer cut of this movie, because again, some of the transitions, some of the pacing, again, it was like, this feels like it got yada.
Not finished. Just put a fucking 4-hour movie out. Scorsese just did it.
Have some balls and do it. If you're gonna,
who cares?
Yeah.
People are down. You know what I mean? Like,
if it's good.
People watch 10 hours of TV in a fucking row, dude. You think they can't sit in these super comfortable AMC chairs? Which, by the way, crushing it.
We're very comfortable.
Yeah.
Yes, they were.
They'll send you your food on the app.
Yep.
Right? Like, you know, people will sit there and, you know, put an intermission in there. We should bring back the intermission.
As we discussed on the previous episode,
this is
I am pro intermission.
We're going to start a petition.
This is going to be this podcast official stance.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing, so it was around I'm going to say that probably around the 50-minute to 50 to a minute 10, a minute 15, or sorry, an hour, 10 minutes, hour 15 minutes. I'm stoned now. I felt like they were just sort of a collection of scenes that were sort of coming and going, and the thread wasn't that great in between them. It more so than you're building a narrative, you're building the story. It just kind of seemed like a collection of different scenes that was like, okay, well, I guess now we're onto this.
It's very unclear whether it's supposed to be a just merry-go-round of just boom, 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 like this is his life just in flashes, or if this is just a result of editing for time. Yep. It's the same issue. I kind of, thinking back, by the way, now, especially comparing this to Killers of the Flower Moon, it's obviously Scorsese intended a lot of his pacing, right? Because that's one of Scorsese's things, is he's really good at pacing. But what this movie really highlights is the strengths and weaknesses of Ridley Scott, because Ridley Scott, the things he's good at, he's a world builder. He's got the costumes, he's got the sets.
Yes.
The cinematography is always fucking awesome.
Yep.
It's the same cinematographer he's used, I think, since Prometheus, which looked amazing.
Fucking
this
also
guy is
love that
incredible. Movie. I can't remember his name. It's some Polish name, but or something similar. And basically, he's never though been an actor's director, for one, and for another, he's never really been a guy who has a distinctive grasp on structure and form. In the same way that, say, someone even if he's not my favorite director ever, Tarantino has a very distinct, that Pulp Fiction is intending to be kind of this merry-go-round of different stories that intersect, right?
Yeah, all these, yeah.
You get that, okay, however much time has passed in Inglourious Basterds or Django, it doesn't really matter, right? Because it's following an emotional through line. With this one, it seems to want to be a history lesson more than a specific statement, right? What is it trying to say? I couldn't tell you at all.
What?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. So
but and if you're trying to teach me a history lesson, who the fuck are, very quickly, oh, there's that guy, okay, never see him again. What happened to the other two consuls? How did they just chilled. They were like, yeah, it's cool. You can take power from the two of us. Like, none of that's addressed.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe it's in there, but it's not like you think I'm gonna go watch the Apple TV or Netflix version or whatever it's gonna be. Of course I'm not. I don't have 4 more hours to waste on this shit.
Yeah.
And like, it's not that. Sorry, to get back to your original point, because we should take it kind of thing by thing, but with the Josephine Napoleon relationship, like, the performances were good.
Yeah.
They weren't great, but again, like, you know, you only have so much material to work with, and I think that one of Ridley Scott's flaws was highlighted in this, and not only is he like not known for like just bringing the romantic chemistry out of people, like it's not like he's known for not doing that. It's not like he's George Lucas or something where you're just like, whoa. But it, you know, what the closest thing he has to like good romantic chemistry in any movie is like, I don't know, A Good Year with Russell Crowe, which bombed, and Marion Cotillard. Like, I actually kind of like that movie, but generally it's like mostly like this stoic like Maximus staring at Connie Nielsen. You're like, in another life they would have boned. Yeah, you know, it's usually like that in his movies. So like, that's not his forte, and if that's going to be the crux of the movie, you've got a real problem.
Because he really focuses on Josephine and Napoleon's relationship.
Yeah, and some of this is on Phoenix,
and
Phoenix didn't go over the top enough.
Dude, okay, all right.
This podcast is sponsored by Coast Smokes. Anyways, Joaquin Phoenix.
Okay, so I think we're probably going to be on the same wavelength about a lot of these things. Man, again, around that same time that I checked my phone, as I said earlier, 2:30. So probably 80 to 90 minutes in, whatever. I remember thinking like, man, this is incredibly understated by Joaquin Phoenix. It's almost like a minimalistic take on what I thought the caricature of Napoleon was, or what he actually was like. And I was like, I'm waiting to see the vanity, the narcissism, the complex.
Well, the reason why I actually don't think that Napoleon was that way. I think that a lot of that historically was propaganda. Like, apparently he wasn't that short for the time. Like, this is like British war propaganda that persisted for generations. But I've never thought of Napoleon as anything other than a great leader, and you see a little bit of it, and maybe he was stoic. I'd have to read a bio.
He's very same. I kept reminding myself that's like, I'm not an expert on this, but I did not expect the performance to be as stoic as it was. It was very minimalist. I guess I did expect it to be more animated, more over the top.
Yeah, this isn't the History Channel. You've given me Joaquin Phoenix in a silly hat. I want to see, like, the best parts. I can tell you right now, the 2 best parts of the movie, right? The first best part is when he yells at the King of England right in his face. He's like, you think you're so great just because you got boats? He's like, yeah, there we go.
Such an awesome line. Yeah, that was...
And then, there was some other point where he did a similar sort of deal. There were a couple points, it might have been more than 2 even, but where he just like shouted some like reckless, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
That like was kind of funny and awesome. And that's where it's like, okay, I'm trying to remember what the second one was. I think it was like when he was when she's like, you've gotten fat, and he's like, destiny has brought me to this lamb chop. Or like, that's what I want to see, is stuff like that where Joaquin Phoenix is just chewing scenery. And like, dude, again, you've given me Joaquin Phoenix, one of the great faces in contemporary cinema.
Yeah.
And one of the best actors. And if you recall in Gladiator, the whole reason the movie works is because Russell Crowe's being stoic, and he's Maximus, and he's a reluctant hero. Right?
Yeah.
But Joaquin Phoenix is just chewing scenery, trying to fuck his sister. You know what I mean? Like, he's just over the top, subtly threatening his nephew.
And his father, he's like,
he gouges his father's fucking eyes out. Yeah. Like, it's total. Yeah. It's like, why don't you love me? Yeah. Like, that's what I want to see from Joaquin Phoenix.
Hell yeah,
in a funny hat.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, dude. I mean, that first 75 minutes, I was kind of like, yo, so we've just seen Joaquin Phoenix kind of like, essentially, for lack of a better phrase, just sort of putz around
Yeah.
Even though he's supposed to be very ambitious and he has like such a legacy, he sort of just putts around and mumbles and glances, and that's like all. That's really like what his performance is.
And if you're gonna do it again, like give it the time,
and I'm like,
give it the room to breathe, so that the glances can be inferred.
Yeah, you know, I kept waiting for, which I guess, you know, hey, look, the last half of the movie, you do sort of see his character, you know, he perks up a little bit. He's a bit more lively. Like some of the two scenes you referenced, you know, that's sort of like after he really comes to power, and so maybe Ridley Scott's at that point.
They're both at the end of the first and second third.
Yeah, it's like,
two scenes.
You know, maybe Scott's trying to show that transformation from him from being the lowly.
And he'll never admit he was wrong. That was kind of a funny thing at the end.
Absolutely.
He's just like, I've never made a mistake.
Yeah,
you just can't accept when others make mistakes.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is others made mistakes. So like, that's kind of funny.
I kind of expected more of that throughout the film, though.
Right.
You know, and more of the pork chop scene, more of the you think you're so great because you have boats.
Yeah, that's
like the
funny.
Philly guy. You know what I mean? What, you think you're fucking better than me, huh? Because you got a fucking boat? You know? Like,
yo, I'm Napoleon. Come on.
It's like,
dude, what I thought. So I think, like, for one, like the whole reason anyone saw this movie, right, is because Joaquin Phoenix in the hat looked awesome.
He's fucking playing
Like,
Napoleon.
dude,
of course, I'll go see it.
The fucking costumes were great.
So on point. Sets were unbelievable.
The sets were incredible. I'm like, did they really use the Palace of Versailles, or
Dude,
did they build that shit?
It was so impressive.
Or Versailles. See, look at me sounding like a fucking simpleton, getting Versailles and Versailles confused.
If you find yourself in the middle of Kentucky, one might call it Versailles.
Versailles, yeah, he was at the Palace of Versailles. And like, it's other than the fact that it was a little dark, and you sound like Roger Ebert in a sense, because it's Roger Ebert, if you ever read his reviews till he died, and I read almost every review the guy's ever done just because I thought he was a great critic. He would always complain, like I remember specifically he complained about Pacific Rim. He's like, it's just so dark that you can't tell what the fuck is happening, you know? And that is, especially with 3D movies, a trend that is sometimes frustrating. It's like a product of modern color correction. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Like, you can film things and then color correct them to look dark, and you can make them look darker than you ever could. And so it's interesting. It's like probably more accurate to the night. I wasn't as bothered by that scene just because, I mean, I could see what was happening, but also there's all these flashes of fire, and that seems to be kind of the point, is like you're seeing it in the flashes of gunfire.
So when the cannon started shooting, I was like, oh, okay, so these, like, the explosions lighted up, I felt like better than the gunfire, and it's like you could see more of it. But really, it's like, you know, Joaquin Phoenix, as he scales the wall, it's like, man, I want to be able to see more of his, like, actual face, right? He's an incredible actor. I want to be able to see his expressions, his mannerisms, like when he gets jumped by the massive British guy, like as soon as he gets up there, you know, I'm like, man, he's like trying to, basically he's just wrestling this guy who's much bigger than he is.
The choreography would have been nice to see, because you have a legendary director too. Turn on some heat. And like, basically what you get is this very dark look that, again, like maybe it's technically more realistic, but it's just not, it's not better than the old-timey Hollywood. I recently saw a couple scenes from like the adaptation of War and Peace, which also a movie where everyone's accent is just wrong. Right. Like,
yep.
For some reason, all the French people have British accents in this movie.
Dude,
by the way,
right? Yes,
which is strange.
100% right off the bat, dude.
I was like, really? We're not going to just cast some French people?
I was so thrown by the scene of the guy that eventually, you know, shoots himself when he's speaking to the room, and it's just like
Robespierre. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm just like, well, this guy's not even pretending to like have a French accent.
No,
like,
none of them did.
I mean, like you said,
Joaquin
like
Phoenix didn't even put on a British accent.
No, he was just like, I'm just gonna be me,
which I guess works because he's Sicilian and everyone else is French, so it's like at least his accent would be different. You know what I mean? But it's
True.
a little bit. It's just a little. It's stuff like that where you're just like, okay, if your strength as Ridley Scott is everything other than the acting, and like he's not the sort of Lynchian, Fellini-esque auteur who's just like giving you this whirlwind of a movie with a really creative structure, right? Like, so the reason I think about that, especially, by the way, and this is an important point actually, is that I wonder if this had any relationship to the failed attempt by Kubrick to make a movie called Napoleon, right? Like Kubrick, that's like his last project that never, they found the script. I remember the script, like I found it on Reddit in, like, I don't know, 2013.
So after Eyes Wide Shut, he was trying to, or...
It might have been before. I think he tried it like a couple times. It was like his lost, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote.
Right.
But he never finished it, and I think part of the issue is he couldn't think of a structure that would make sense, right?
Okay.
And I get that, because you basically would have to select one point in Napoleon's life and really focus on that, which I don't think they did enough. I think they just skipped over.
Yeah.
Here's his, but it's not, okay, but why don't you just give me his childhood too?
Right.
Like, I don't know what made him him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's none of that when
How did he come to be in France if he's Corsican?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. When they were in Africa, when they were in Egypt specifically.
Well, Egypt is in Africa.
This is very true, but I wanted to specify when they were in Egypt, I was very thrown by, like, oh, we're here already. Okay. All right, he kind of just started to, like, assert himself. Like, you just saw him get promoted to general not too long before that, and then it's like, okay, all right, like a lot of yada yada. Yeah.
Well, and I, look, again, there's a way to do that and have it just be like a ride of a movie still.
Yeah.
Right? But that's not really... I think Ridley Scott is kind of slave to his script a lot of the time. If his screenplay isn't amazing, his movie isn't amazing. And, like, I don't think he's ever written a movie himself, right? And that's fine. That's a lot of great directors.
Right.
I don't think Spielberg ever wrote a fucking movie. Maybe he wrote, like, a couple early on, but, like, it's either that they cut so much for the long version, or the script just wasn't that good, or maybe both. And it's just like, well, you would have had to make this movie a lot more psychedelic and feverish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, you know, like I liked when there's all this great material, like when the Tsar dances with his wife and probably fucks her, his ex-wife. She's not his wife anymore, but it's just like a fuck you. Like, where's the payoff in that?
Yeah.
There was no payoff. Like, I was like, oh, does she have syphilis? Did she die because of this? Nope. It's not even addressed.
There's just, like I said, man, at certain points it just feels like a collection of scenes that are following each other, but it's not really weaving together
and even then
a good story.
That it doesn't pass the Howard Hawks test of, you know, Howard Hawks' metric for a good movie. He's like 3 great scenes, or I can't remember if he says good or great, but 3 good scenes, no bad ones is the recipe for a good movie.
Okay.
As long as you have 3 good scenes and 0 bad scenes, you have a good movie. And I think that's actually really quite true. In that there's a lot of movies where, like, yeah, they don't thread it all together perfect. It's not fucking, it's, you know, it's not a masterpiece by Kubrick, right?
Right.
But it's still a good movie. A really great example being Prometheus. I like Prometheus, right?
I did too. Yeah.
And everyone wanted to shit on it because they're like, oh man, like, it just, you know, let me down, and there's reasons for that. But without going into it, it's like, yeah, but you still got 3 great scenes.
Absolutely.
You got at least 3 great scenes, and I don't remember any scenes that made me go, oh, come on. You know what I mean? Really none of that. Everyone wanted to complain like, they're like running, why didn't they just run sideways? I'm like, I don't think you realize how big the ship they're running away from fucking is. Like, if you went sideways, like...
It's still...
it's still gonna probably fall on you.
Yeah.
And also, like, I think they do go sideways. I remember rewatching and being like, they do go sideways, and then it follows them. So it's like, what are you supposed to do? Like, that was nitpicking, right? There was no scene.
There's no aliens in it. It's like, well,
until the very end.
It's like, yeah, because you're seeing the fucking.
But dude, all this stuff with like the guy like getting the like worm in his eye, and the two guys that get lost and they die, and everyone's like, oh, they're just complaining that. No archaeologist would do that. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. This is a sci-fi horror movie. Chill out.
Yeah.
You gave me the goods, and you didn't fuck up. In this one, I wouldn't say that he fucked up, but he didn't give me the goods. There were no. I can't, other than those couple lines, and the first battle scene and the second battle scene on the ice. That was the best one.
The battle scene on the ice.
Those were good.
That was incredible, and that was the scene in the movie that I was just like, yes. Where has this been? Where has this type of energy and fucking tension and like just the climactic nature of it? Like, this is what I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
And they give it to you in that scene. But that's about it.
But there's never a good scene that's based on the character. It's just you have two good action scenes in the movie.
Yeah, and
you know,
and it's like, you know, when the first fort that they overtake, it's like, man, I want to see what's going on, because like there's some cool shit that's happening here, but you know, I feel like there's just a lot of nuance lost in, I think, a lot of this movie. You know, in the different in the scenes, whether it's like the romantic scenes or the battles.
Dude, this like I would have loved it if they just rushed through everything, got to the exile on Elba, gave us a couple scenes there, like really let that breathe for a second, so you understand, like, man, this sucks. We're just stuck here. Right?
Give me the energy of he's cooped up and the dude's banging his wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's fucking furious.
Yeah, and then give me more of his coup. His second time, because that to me was always like the most badass thing about Napoleon. When you just read like the cliff notes in the history books in high school, because I was like, this guy came out of total chaos to become emperor, and he's not even from there,
right?
Which is pretty cool. And then they lock him away on an island, saying like, you're never coming back, and he somehow comes back and retakes power.
Yeah, and just regains all these the loyalty of all these.
Like, when has that ever happened?
Yeah, it's so fucking crazy.
Right?
Such a crazy
like,
story.
Barely has to fire a shot, and he's just immediately, boom. Like, so, like, they really, that's where I was like, okay, this is a letdown.
Yeah, man. Even God, I can't. So, like, when it shows them continuing their march on into Russia, and there's the one scene that it flashes, it's like December 1812, I believe, is like the year that it is, and you realize, like, fuck, dude. This crazy son of a bitch. The smart play, like they said, go back to Poland, wait out the winter, restore your supplies, right? Okay, get your troops healthy and rested.
If he'd done it, he would have been fine.
And the crazy motherfucker's like, no. And then the next scene is them just in what looks to just be this, again, great shots. Great sets. The cinematography was impeccable.
But like, name me a Ridley Scott movie where that isn't true.
100%.
You know,
but
you can't.
So like, you go into this scene, and I mean, I think I was just like, whenever you see them marching on still to St. Petersburg, which is where they're trying to go after the burning of Moscow, I was just like, God damn, because it looks so fucking cold, and you realize what this guy is doing. You cannot do it. That's a hell of a home field advantage Russia has. And
that's
it's
why
like,
you can't take them.
You cannot take them in winter, and yet this he's going. But then all of a sudden, it's just kind of over, right?
Yeah, you're just back,
and you're just back, and it's one of those things where I'm like, man, that is a hell of a time to really just like, okay, well then, yeah, we all know he felt like, I don't know, like it was.
You know the story. It's like, no, what if I don't?
It's like, show me, dude. Like, felt so anticlimactic, especially after the burning of Moscow, which I was looking forward to. I was very much looking forward to see how they did that. And
that could have been a little more intense too. Like, where was his temper tantrum?
Yeah.
Like, what he should have done, like, he kind of like shouts into his hat, but like, I would have loved to have seen him just throw a temper tantrum. You got Jack Nicholson here. Let him be Jack, right?
Dude.
Like, Joaquin Phoenix is very capable of throwing an awesome temper tantrum.
And we mentioned earlier about, like, you know, the glances that Joaquin Phoenix was doing, and it was sort of like, if you're going to do that, like, make them, you know, let the camera, like, just let it marinate a little bit longer, right?
Yeah,
like,
give me some time.
So that was one of those things where it's like, man, why not give me a close-up or a shot of Joaquin Phoenix's face where you can just see the rage and the anger just welling up inside of him? Like, you can see it in his eyes and in his face, just this...
Yeah.
Just it fucking taking hold. They fucking got him, right? They you know, and basically just the ultimate middle finger to you, where just like, you're not going to take the city. I will literally burn it to the fucking ground before I give it to you.
Yeah, come at me, bro.
And
enjoy the winner.
You have Joaquin Phoenix, man, who, like, it's fuck, man, like in The Master, to throw back to The Master, where he fucking rips the sink. Is that what it is? The one where he rips the sink out of the fucking wall?
Yeah, and he's like at work or whatever.
Yeah, and he's throwing the temper. Man, it's like, okay, now my man doesn't have to, but like, you've got this type of actor capable of just going absolute fucking berserk.
Yeah, the audit scene in that one.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, like, let me see that. Let me see more over the top.
I question whether Ridley Scott likes movies for the same reason I think most people like movies. I think the reason, you know, I'm a director's guy, right? If I see a director is making something, obviously I'm gonna fucking see it if I like that director, right? I'm interested to know.
David Lynch is making a movie? Fuck yeah, dude, sign me up. Of course,
right,
I'm
yeah. And for a second I was like, wait, he is?
Yeah, I fucking wish.
That'd be awesome. But so, like, most people, though, are actors people, right? There's a reason the actors get the big bucks. There's a reason, and they do make or break it, right? They really make or break it, and some of it's not even, like, anything other than them, they just have a funny face or whatever. But Ridley Scott has never been... Like, have you seen Hannibal?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, you've got Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. You've got, like, the best villain ever.
Yep.
Literally, they do all these polls, and he's always, like, the #1 movie villain ever. Mm-hmm. Right? The only ones who come close are, like, Darth Vader and Heath Ledger's Joker.
Right.
Which is still better than Joaquin Phoenix's, even though that was good.
Right.
Right? Like,
right.
And you just blew it. Like, it wasn't terrible, right? But it's like, he's just, you know, he's serving people brains at the dinner table, and it's just so ridiculous. And some of that might, again, the script, you know, maybe Hannibal Lecter's just scarier when he is in prison and when you don't know what he does. And right. So it's all in your imagination what he's going to do, right? Mm. But also you have Jonathan Demme directing that one, who's just like, he always brings great performances out of his actors. Even if they're bad actors, he uses that in a really artful way. Like Matthew Modine in Married to the Mob. Mm-hmm. It's the only time I ever saw Matthew Modine be generally appealing.
Right, yeah.
Right? I never understood that guy's, like, you know, he's good in Kubrick, but, like, again, he's just a proxy in Kubrick. He's just you. This is if you were there. So all he has to do is just stand there.
He's the surrogate. He's the audience surrogate for Full Metal Jacket.
He's there so that Arlie Emery and Vincent D'Onofrio can act around him.
Yeah.
You know? And then in even another example of him using a bad actor was in Truth About Charlie, where he has Mark Wahlberg as a deceitful character, which we have some friends who hate that movie. I love that movie because I think it's a stroke of genius to have your deceitful, kind of like, you know, double timing character be played by a bad actor, because the whole time you're like, why would you trust this guy?
Right.
What the fuck is wrong with him? Right? And then it turns out, like, oh, he's a liar.
Yeah.
Well, that's genius, right? Like, it has to be a big dumb Mark Wahlberg for that role once you understand the movie, right? I don't feel like Ridley Scott does anything other than cast for I think he casts for a look and box office appeal, and I think he basically just sticks with actors who he knows usually deliver, and he lets them just, like, figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. I'm not on set, but, like, Russell Crowe being a great example. Like, most of the time when Russell Crowe's in a movie, he's not overacting. He's just like being, you know, he's got that sad look in his eyes, but he's tough.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, or you're casting Denzel in American Gangster, and you just know Denzel's going to be Denzel, so you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Right? Just be Denzel.
Yeah.
Right? And Joaquin Phoenix, I guess, doesn't really have like a specific character that he always plays in the same way Denzel does, but like, again, you could have just said, hey, go crazy, I'll let you know when it's too much.
Yeah.
And instead, I feel like they were like, I don't know
too timid.
I don't know if they worked together on it and they're like, no, we're going to do this really nuanced and good, or if he just didn't exercise enough, and almost like he didn't antagonize him enough, right? Like do what Kubrick did, where he just piss his actors off and then they'd yell, and then it's like, okay, well, now you got the take.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like he just wants to like play with his Legos, essentially. He's like, you know, it'd be fun, Battle of Waterloo. I'd love to make the Battle of Waterloo, and then he works backwards from there. Like, it's almost like more about what he wants to see and not about what would make a good movie.
Yeah. I mean, the Battle of Waterloo, I even thought that could have been more climactic as well. I can't believe I'm saying that, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I really thought that could have been put together better. You know,
I did enjoy whoever he cast as like Lord Wellington or the Duke of Wellington.
Mm-hmm.
He did have this very perfect British,
he did.
He had like this British smug, yes,
Yeah,
like look on his face, you know.
Yeah.
Just stiff upper lip, as they call it, you know, stiff upper lip, but like, yes. He was that was good casting. Generally, though, also, dude, you don't know who any of these actors are. It's a lot of no-name actors, which is fine, especially if you're trying to save money. But again, when you're whipping me through shit, I have no idea if any of these people are the same people from earlier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas if it's the sort of movie where, you know, you introduce, the first name that comes to mind is Tom Cruise, but that's stupid. But like, imagine Tom Cruise is in your supporting role, right? You're gonna remember that's Tom Cruise the next time you see him. Be like, oh yeah, that's that guy Tom Cruise is playing, and you have this point of reference where you're like, oh, that's his brother, right? I was like, which one's his brother?
Throwing Michael Fassbender in there somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
something
exactly.
Like that. Put him as,
or
like,
even a smaller name, dude. Like, just put someone in there who you've kind of heard of, who has a memorable face. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Throw Taron Egerton in there.
Yeah.
Or like some French guy. Where's Gerard Depardieu when you need him, dude?
Absolutely.
You could have had him play King Louis.
Damon Dash Malkin or something like that. You know what I mean? Throw him in there. He's got one of those faces where you're just like, oh, that guy. Yeah, okay. What's this guy up to?
I actually think Gerard Depardieu renounced his... you need the lighter or the smoke?
Smoke?
Oh, yeah. Here.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Have yourself a coast.
Ah, the beautiful coast.
Gerard Depardieu, I think, renounced his French citizenship, actually. So maybe that's why they didn't use him. But I think he's now a Russian citizen. This was years ago.
Oh.
But isn't that hilarious?
That is hilarious.
But like, you know, and that's the other thing, dude. For a movie about the world's most famous, like, French leader, it was not very French. It was like a very British movie, just like strict and to the letter, and they dotted up a lot of the I's and crossed the T's, but the soul was lacking.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, everything was there, but it's not like, dude, if the French were making a movie about Napoleon, dude, he'd fuck his mother. Like,
it'd be wild as hell.
Yeah, there'd be something really crazy going on.
And yeah, you know, look, yeah, you don't have to give me as over the top as like Joaquin Phoenix may have been like in The Master and this, but like, you have a guy that's got that type of range. I don't want to see understated in the role of Napoleon. Maybe I'm totally wrong on like what his characteristics actually are.
No, understatement is for movies by directors who have their own voice.
Yeah, it was just like
Jake Gyllenhaal is good at being understated.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He can go over the top, but like, no one's going to a movie because they hope Jake Gyllenhaal freaks out. Mm-hmm. Every time Joaquin Phoenix is in a movie, I'm hoping he does something that blows my mind.
You know, this guy's kind of a nut. You know, it's gonna get wild in some way, at least at one point in the movie. And, you know, I kind of feel like the burning of Moscow was a really good opportunity to show him maybe some sort of temper
Like snap
tantrum.
a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Again,
when is the point where it changes? Did he ever change? Is this whole problem that he didn't change?
because clearly, dude, he proceeds to march on in the dead of winter, fucking December, on to St. Petersburg. It's like, man, holy fuck, that is cold. And they, what did it say? They went in there with 600,000 troops? Or
400.
What did they well, no, was it was 500,000 troops and they came out with 40,000 troops
Yeah,
left? It's like
something like that.
460,000 dead. Like, god damn, dude, that is brutal. That is of the most epic proportions.
And most of them died
dude.
of the cold, right? Not
Yeah.
because of the battles.
No, absolutely, dude. I mean, it's
And it lost him the alliance, which they just kind of gloss over. Okay, now Austria's against him again.
Yeah.
He was apparently married to the daughter of. That's just. So maybe it's that they cut so much out, but to me that's no excuse. It's like, okay, well, if you couldn't make the movie work at 2.5 hours, you should have made it 3. You know what I mean?
Dude,
Like, I'm already here.
absolutely. This is a movie. We've had a couple movies recently where I was like, you know, I think you could have probably just cut a little bit out or whatever. Like, this is a movie where I think you could have added a little bit more in there, and it would have brought a lot more emotional weight, and it would have brought more attention to the film.
I wondered too how intentional it is. Like, we're gonna have 2 cuts because he's the most. The reason that the director's cut exists is because of Ridley Scott, right? Because of what they did to Blade Runner, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And when you see the director's cut of Blade Runner, you're just like, God damn, this is one of the best movies ever made, right? When if you watch the original cut, which is hard to find now, actually, it's very hard to find. But like with the voiceover, it's just like, okay,
right.
like, oh man, ew. And it's got like this happy ending where you're just like, oh, fuck you.
Yeah.
And you
yeah.
can tell like Harrison Ford's essentially being held at gunpoint as he records this soulless voiceover. And so like you have, and the director's cut was so successful that there is a whole cottage industry of having director's cuts now.
Absolutely.
And a lot of contracts are determined around director's cuts. And I wonder if like they're like, yeah, but we need a director's cut. And it's like, yeah, but if you plan on it, it's not really a director's cut, right? The goal should be that you have one cut that's good, right?
Yes.
And sometimes, by the way, when the studio cuts shit, it's good. Like the example I always use, is Tropic Thunder, right? Which is a movie that like the theatrical cut is hilarious. I think we've talked about this before, but the director's cut is just a slog and it's not funny, and it's a great example of like, okay, hey man, sometimes the studio's right? But
Enough's
sometimes
enough.
they're wrong.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
Ridley Scott's had enough of his movies butchered. Another one is Kingdom of Heaven, right? Where like the director's cut is great, it's awesome. The theatrical version makes 0 sense. Same. It's very similar to this one where you're like, wait, what happened? She's doing what? Why is she sad?
Yeah.
Right? Because they cut the entire son out. The son of like the Queen of Jerusalem, right? Or the sister or Princess of Jerusalem, whatever, Eva Green. They cut her son's entire character out. So all of a sudden she's just like in funeral attire and you don't know why.
Yeah, it's
She's acting kooky and broken and you don't know why. You know?
it's yeah, I mean, I think this movie, I don't have a desire to see the 4-hour cut. And to what you're speaking, it's like, yeah, you should nail the movie one cut. And here's the thing, if the movie is that awesome and that great and people legitimately do want more because the first cut you gave them is so impactful, and it's just like, yeah, okay, well, you know, here's another 15-20 minutes worth of scenes that actually will go to enhance this even more, but you still have the full story. But for the uber passionate fans,
yeah, you can do an extended cut or whatever, right? Yeah,
but it's like you need to be able to make your point and nail the movie with the main cut, the theatrical release. And I don't think he did that. You said earlier, like, yeah, I have no idea what his point was going to be.
what was it about?
I kind of thought at the beginning with the Marie Antoinette scene that there was going to be some sort of,
I was hoping she'd scream, "Let them eat cake!"
some sort of tie into this idea of like, you know, maybe as society's getting to a certain point where wealth is being concentrated by such few people, you know, maybe there is some sort of correlation, or it's like, oh, this is a timely manner to tell the story of revolution.
This is how authoritarianism takes hold, for sure.
But no, that's not at all what he goes for. And again, I have no idea what the point of the movie is. I think
the point was he wanted to do those costumes and do those battle scenes. Yeah. I think it's just almost like a selfish desire from Ridley Scott. And the sad thing is that, like, he's such a technical master that you don't even really need to talk about the cinematography, which is just, again, cinematography crushed it.
Spot on, right? Man. It's fucking spot on.
Anything,
dude.
all the mise en scène. There's a good French word for you for a French movie, but all the mise en scène, all the lighting. Oh my god! Like, they did some of that Barry Lyndon like candlelit shit. Mm-hmm. Like, it was all great, but unfortunately, you know, a lot of window dressing, not much when you're actually looking through the window, though.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. I feel like the issue with Ridley Scott is that he has gotten too. He hasn't gotten senile enough. Like, give me a little senility. Give me a little bit of that, like we were talking about last time, like that Coppola, like, you've lost your mind a bit. Yeah. Right? Because, like, just shake it up. Because how many movies has Ridley Scott made in the past, man, let's even just say, like, 15 years, right? So not counting Kingdom of Heaven. From, like, let's see, 15 years ago would essentially be, like, 2009 on. So, like, from Robin Hood on, how many good movies has he made? He's got The Counselor.
I like Prometheus. Yeah, and
that's basically it.
I think so.
Right? Like, there's other good stuff, like decent stuff, not terrible stuff. And The Counselor, that's one where you got to see the director's cut too, or it doesn't make sense. But when you, like, I'm trying to, like, dude, it's like, what's that movie? The Last Duel. Like, I started watching it. I just couldn't even.
Yeah, dude.
That's, like, I don't give a shit about Matt Damon as a fucking knight, dude.
No.
And Ben Affleck in a period piece. Get out of here, guys. Like, you're Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Yeah, exactly. I don't give a shit about this.
Right. And kind
of my reaction to the Bob Marley
All
trailer.
the Money in the World with, like, Kevin Spacey, the Getty movie. Like, it was okay. It wasn't bad.
Dude. I mean, it wasn't bad. I was just kind of like, meh, you know, like.
Right. Alien Covenant was all right. You know, it's so, like, there's this. The Martian, I thought, was a little overrated. It was good.
It was all right. It was pretty it was solid, I thought, but, like.
If I'm going to watch a movie where Matt Damon's in space, I'll choose Interstellar. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, 100 easy.
As Dr. Man, because mankind is a problem. That's the dumbest part of that movie, by the way, is that the villain is Dr. Man. Just like, dude, you sound like a fucking cartoon. Like a cartoon villain.
The patriarchy in space.
Right, yeah. But, like, it was, other than like, just like, and once again, Counselor, that's good because Cormac McCarthy wrote it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Prometheus is good because I can't share some of the details I know in that movie because of a contract, but the way that movie came about, at least half of it was bound to be great.
This is some inside information that you only get on this podcast, folks.
And if anything, it would have been potentially better had Ridley Scott not directed it, right? So, like, you're really, unfortunately, he's just kind of like going more the way of like Kurosawa. Although Kurosawa had, like, dreams, like, but I'm trying to and he had Ron, so he's not a good example. But, like, some great directors, dude, they just kind of, like, they go quietly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they don't go out with a bang, right? I unfortunately feel that. It makes me fear for Gladiator 2 next year, which is happening, by the way.
Oh, God, that's right. And, you know, I mean,
It's about Lucius. Remember Lucius?
Yeah.
The nephew who Joaquin Phoenix yells at?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'll tell you what, when it comes to Gladiator, what I really wanted was a sequel without Russell Crowe or Joaquin Phoenix.
That could be a rough one.
Or Richard Harris.
That could be a rough one.
It could be all right, you know?
Could be.
He clearly has the ability to still put together a very slick production, but I don't know where his artistic drive is at, other than he's just trying to not die. Like, okay, well, I got to keep working, or if I stop working, I die.
Yeah, man. And you know it.
And he never had his brother's flair, right? Like, someone said to me, Ridley Scott doesn't have a style. Someone recently said this to me when I was telling him I was going to see it, and I was like, what do you mean he doesn't have a style? And they're like, he just doesn't actually have a style. Like, what is Ridley Scott's style? And I'm like, okay, well, that also could just mean he's a versatile filmmaker, right? Yeah. But he's an old school filmmaker who gets the production done mostly on time, often not, but and generally on budget at this point. You know what I mean? Like, he's a reliable name.
Yep.
Like, after Spielberg at this point, I can't think of another
people are going to go see the
like
new
big
Ridley
budget
Scott
director
movie.
of that era who has more weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, now you've got some like Christopher Nolan is kind of taking some of that mantle, but like in terms of mainstream Hollywood filmmakers, he's at the top tier, and I think he's a little too comfortable there, and you're just not getting anything risky.
It's you know exactly what you're getting with Ridley Scott, and there's not a lot of chances being taken.
Yeah.
Like,
man, I don't want to rehash it. We had such a golden opportunity with fucking Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
This said, what would your rating be out of 5 stars, and also where do you think this ranks in the Ridley Scott pantheon?
Out of 5 stars, I'm going to give this movie, I'll give it 3 stars.
3?
Yep. And that is, I think, pretty much entirely built upon sets, the design, the cinematography. I thought about giving it 2.5, but I'll go 3. Honestly, I enjoyed Joaquin Phoenix's performance the last sort of half of the film, if you will, a bit more, but still, I just thought a lot of missed opportunities. Not the most cohesive or well plotted, movie.
Just like, here's his life.
Yeah. 3 stars. I don't think I'll watch the 4-hour version. If I'm like brutally hungover on a Sunday and there's no football on and I have nothing to do, maybe that would be a point that I would be like, fuck it, I'm laying on the couch, I'll watch this 4-hour movie.
Even then, bro, there's so many other 4-hour movies you could watch.
I'm much more likely to just be like, fuck it, I'll put on Dune. You know what I mean? Or like, fuck it, I'll watch
Pirates of the fucking Caribbean, dude. Like,
I'll watch the original Alien, or something like that. It was disappointing. It was a disappointing movie. I was very excited for this movie. I would be lying if I said that I wasn't ultimately disappointed.
Yeah,
with
it
this.
affects the rating a bit too, and fairly so. Anticipation matters.
Yeah, I was pumped, dude. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Joaquin? I mean, and like, granted, I get it. Joaquin Phoenix is a little old to play Napoleon. I think
that did bug me a little bit, because it's like, wait, it's been 15 years, because he's looked old the whole time.
Yeah, he's looked old the whole time. But again, it's like, hey,
you don't have to de-age, but like, if you're not going to de-age, get a younger actor and make him look older.
It's like, hey, I'll give it to you if you give me a fucking just incredible performance with the great movie, right? Whatever, fuck it. Like, sure, he doesn't look young, I get that,
but he's chewing scenery.
But yeah, if you give me just like Joaquin Phoenix, absolute fucking dog status, just owning the screen every time he's on it, with a cohesive story, then like, yeah, cool, I'm here for it. But nah, it wasn't. It was not that. Left me wanting a lot more. It was lacking.
And so, would you put it like mid-tier for Ridley Scott's?
Mid-tier, man. I'd say bottom tier 2 or tier 3 is probably where I'd put it, I think.
Yeah, I think Ridley Scott's such a broad director, dude. Like, he's got like this insane top tier. Yeah, why not? With like I'm good on that. With like I don't know, Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Right, that's almost a tier on its own. I don't think
legitimately, dude. Like, what? Yeah.
But like I actually would put the director's cut of The Counselor up there as one of his best movies he's ever made.
Okay.
Could probably put Gladiator up there with it.
I'd put it up there.
Probably put Thelma and Louise up there with it. And then you've got like this second tier with like Kingdom of Heaven and American Gangster.
Did you like Alien?
Oh, Alien's in the top.
Okay,
sure.
I was just saying,
Yeah.
yeah, Alien is definitely top tier for me. For
Like,
sure. I love it.
Again, like Blade Runner's better than all those movies, but
Yeah, Blade Runner is.
that's just like a top 10, top 20 movie ever made.
Yeah.
Sort of deal.
Yeah.
Like you just don't unless you're Stanley Kubrick or David Lynch.
I was just saying,
Or-
man, like for sci-fi, it's like to me, it's like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Blade Runner. Like those two movies kind of just really set the fucking standard for the genre in a lot of ways.
And
Most
very,
ways.
very, very few directors ever can make two of the best movies ever made. So, like, okay, I'm not going to hold that against you.
Right.
But I would put this at the highest third tier, maybe fourth, dude. This is like one of the more
tier 3. Yeah, I think like that's tier 2. When I said bottom tier 2, that's probably a little over it.
I might even go tier 4, dude, because I prefer like Robin Hood to this.
Yeah.
You know, like I prefer. I think All the Money in the World was a better movie.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it's one of his worst movies, but like, man, I'd rather watch like Black Rain or Hard Rain or whichever it is. I'd rather watch A Good Year, right? That's like a firm tier 3. I'd rather watch almost all of those over this one. This is like, it's not quite as bad as Legend, but it's definitely, dude, like I'm giving this a firm 2 stars.
2 stars. Okay.
That's like my max.
Okay.
Because one, Ridley Scott doing well on production design and cinematography is like spelling your name right on the SATs, right? Like that's just okay. You got your baseline 800 points or whatever. Like the rest of it, just none of it fell flat. It was such a wasted opportunity.
Yep. Yeah, man. And it was just boring in certain points, man. I mean, there were just certain moments in the film, and then that's the weird thing is, you know, hell yeah, kind of what I said earlier. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like you'd have like the battle scene on ice where it's just like, okay, that's fucking sick. What are we going into next? Like, all right, you kind of got me back in it now. Okay, what are we doing next? Let down. You know what I mean? And just more yada yada yada. And now we're just at this point. It's just like.
And it was cool to see in the theater, man, but like again, yeah, it didn't take me on a ride.
No.
You know what I mean? Like it really was like, you know, you wonder, I don't know if he's harming his legacy really, because I think like past a certain point, you what do you mean you harm? Oh, did an 84-year-old or however old he is like make a not great movie? Like that's a shock. You know what I mean? Like his legacy's secure.
Yeah.
You know, but it definitely didn't convince anyone who thought Ridley Scott didn't have a style that he did.
Right, it didn't do him any favors in that.
Like, I would have genuinely rather seen Tony Scott direct this movie, with all due respect.
Yeah.
Because Tony Scott at least would have made it weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He would have done that, like, Man on Fire, just, like, glitchy. Like, I'm Tony Scott. But yeah, so 3 stars, 2 stars. We'll do a bonus segment for Rumble in a second, but sponsored by Coast Smokes. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Fucking Napoleon. Go see it if you're bored.
Yeah.
If you're really bored and you need to see a movie with your dad.
Yeah,
a good movie to see with your dad.
Go check it out. Yeah.
You know, if it's still around on Christmas, go see it with your dad.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing better to see with your dad. Really, this Christmas season, unfortunately.
Don't get your hopes too high for it, though. You know, don't tamper the expectations there.
Sayonara.